Day. Hafa Again, welcome to the Guam Congress Building, the Committee on Health, Land, Justice, and Culture. It's continuing on with a public hearing begun at 1 p.m. It is Monday, January 8, 2024. The time is 5:32 p.m. Notices were sent for this hearing on Friday, December 29 and January 5th, 2024. These were published in the Guam Daily Post and on the Government of Guam Public Notice Portal, and they were also sent to senators and all media broadcasting outlets. And this hearing is being live streamed on the Guam Legislature's YouTube channel. There are two agenda items remaining. Bill number 155-37 LS, introduced by Frank Blas Jr., Thomas J. Fisher, Dwayne T.D. Nicolas, an act to add a new subsection 80.37b to Article 2, Chapter 80, Title 9, Guam Code Annotated, relative to the possession or use of an explosive or an improved explosive device in the commission of a felony. There's also Bill number 155-37 LS, introduced by Senator William A. Parkinson. It's an act to add a new Chapter 164 to Title 8, Guam Code Annotated, relative to attendance of witnesses, and to cite this act as the uniform act to secure the attendance of witnesses from without a state in criminal proceedings. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of my colleagues, beginning with Senator CITE, who's been here all day with me, Senator Joanne Brown as well, Minority Leader Senator Frank Blas, and Senator William Parkinson. Thank you, colleagues, for being here. Okay, so we'll begin with the Bill number 153-37, and as the primary sponsor, Senator Blas, you may introduce the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Bill 153-37 LS is an act to add a new subsection 80.37b to Article 2, Chapter 80, Title 9, Guam Code Annotated, relative to the possession or use of an explosive or an improvised explosive device in the commission of a felony. You know, Madam Speaker, this bill, or the idea for this bill, came as a result of conversations that our body was deliberating on, in as far as strengthening some of our laws, primarily in the area of drug trafficking. As a former drug agent, you know, one of the things that I remember is that when we came across explosive device, I'll take the blame for this, or recognize that when you're dealing in the realm of drug enforcement, a lot of times we take cases that have the explosive devices. We take them through the federal system, and so obviously there was no need to be able to have, or to strengthen, or to basically and make sure or be specific with regards to how we deal with it in our local statutes. But as of recent times, and one of the concerns that we had is the use of explosives or an improvised explosive device in the commission of not just a drug offense, but any felony, in the commission of any felony, whether it's in the commission of burglary, a robbery, you know, obviously a homicide, murder, or any of those areas that raise to the level of being a felony. Improvised explosive devices are actually something that's very novel in as far as law enforcement is concerned over the last couple of decades. And they're not only quite easy to make, but they can do a lot of damage, especially when used with criminal intent. And so one of the things that I did in the research is I looked into the statutes that we have locally to see that while we do have laws that basically prohibit the use or the possession of the type of explosives. Here it ties the use and the possession of the explosive in the commission of a felony, in commission of a crime. And in doing so, if an individual is found guilty, it is an enhancement towards the initial offense, which is the felony, and it enhances the penalty for the commission of this offense by an imprisonment of no less than 10 years and no more than 25 years. So it's a penalty that's above that and attached to the offense. So what this bill provides is that it gives law enforcement the ability that if they find that in the investigation of a felony that there was the use of what we know as traditional explosives or an improvised explosive device, that it is an enhanceable offense when charged out as a felony. So with that, Madam Chair, I welcome any testimony or any suggestion, any comments with regards to this bill, and I hope for its quick review in the committee and then passage on the floor. Thank you very much.
Senator Blas. Just a note from the fiscal note from BBMR says they envision that there will be a potential impact to the Department of Corrections relative to incarceration-specific costs, such as meals, healthcare, clothing, rehabilitative services, and other associated costs and services for imprisonment. I'd like now to invite Gloria Rudolph, who is from the Office of the Attorney General, to testify. Thank you for waiting.
Good evening, Madam Speaker, Senators. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General, Douglas Moylan, who wanted to express his support for this bill. And his testimony in support goes as follows. There is currently a sentencing enhancement for criminal defendants who possess or use deadly weapons in the commission of a felony. That provision, as currently written, arguably does not include the use of explosive devices. Bill number 153-37 will make it crystal clear that the provision does include explosive devices, which are, of course, exponentially more dangerous than knives, rebars, and other deadly weapons. This legislation will send a strong message that violent criminals will face an enhanced sentence of up to an additional 25 years of jail, no matter what kind of deadly weapon they use. I look forward to working with our senators to enact other common sense solutions for cracking down on crime and protecting the people of Guam.
And that is by Douglas Moylan, Attorney General of Guam. All right, Jesus Masi, thank you. And thank him also for submitting this in writing to us, so that would be very helpful. Are there any questions? Senator Blas? Any questions, Senator? All right, Jesus Masi. All right. I'm just going to move then in our agenda to Bill number 155-37 LS. Senator Parkinson, as the primary sponsor, you may introduce the bill.
Bill number 155-37 LS, an act to add a new chapter 164 to Title 8 Guam Code Annotated relative to attendance of witnesses, and to cite this act as a uniform act to secure the attendance of witnesses from without a state in criminal proceedings. So, the subpoena power of any particular state court typically ends at a state's border. Thus, a state court in State A would not have jurisdiction to summon a witness who resides in State B without authorization from a court in State B. As a result, state prosecutors cannot use the same procedures to obtain a subpoena for an out-of-state witness as they would for an in-state witness. The Uniform Act to secure the attendance of witnesses from without a state in criminal proceedings provides authority and processes for a State A prosecutor to require a State B witness to testify in State A. The National Conference of Commissioners on Uniform State Laws introduced the Uniform Act in 1931. The object of the act was to promote the enforcement of criminal law and the administration of justice in criminal proceedings. In 1936, the Conference of Commissioners made two changes to the Uniform Act. The first change allowed prosecutors to use the act during grand jury proceedings. The second change allowed for a witness to be arrested, held in custody, and delivered to an officer of the requesting state when expedient. In 1959, the Supreme Court confirmed the constitutionality of the Uniform Act in New York v. O'Neill. All 50 states have enacted Uniform Act laws, starting with North Dakota in 1931 and ending with Alabama in 1977. The District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands have their own versions of the Uniform Act. Guam does not have the Uniform Act, but it has a similar law that allows witnesses in Guam to be subpoenaed to appear in other states. So while other states may subpoena witnesses on Guam to appear in their courts, because we have not adopted the Uniform Act, we cannot compel witnesses outside of Guam to appear before our courts. This act addresses a critical gap in our current legal framework. In an increasingly interconnected world, the reality is that key witnesses in legal proceeding often move off island for various reasons. This geographic barrier can impede justice, and the absence of crucial testimony can skew the outcomes of legal proceedings. The Attendance of Out-of-State Witnesses Act provides a pragmatic and equitable solution. By facilitating the attendances of witnesses from other states, it ensures that their crucial testimonies are not lost due to geographical constraints. This process is not just beneficial, it is essential in our pursuit of comprehensive and fair trials. The ability to hear from all relevant witnesses, regardless of their location, is a cornerstone of a just legal system. It is also worth noting that this act promotes cooperation and reciprocity among states and territories, fostering a more united and efficient judicial network across the nation. By supporting this legislation, we are not only enhancing our individual state legal processes, but also contributing to a more cohesive national legal framework. By using the Uniform Act, we standardize the process by which out-of-state witnesses may be subpoenaed and incorporate that process into the long history of case law and other adjudication already on the books. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. The Uniform Act provides a framework that is tried and true, and most importantly, legally tested across the nation for nearly 100 years. In conclusion, the Attendance of Out-of-State Witnesses Act is a necessary step forward in modernizing our judicial process. When key witnesses move off island, the cause of justice should not end. The Uniform Attendance of Out-of-State Witnesses Act is not just a legal mechanism, it is a symbol of our resolve to ensure that every voice that needs to be heard in our courts can be heard. It is about breaking down the barriers that distance and geography have opposed upon our pursuit of justice, and incorporating this act into our laws means that when crucial witnesses reside outside of Guam, their testimony will not be lost to the miles that separate us. It means that our legal proceedings will be enriched by the full spectrum of evidence and perspectives, ensuring that the scales of justice are balanced fair and equitably. This is about more than just legal processes. It's about the value we hold dear. It's about ensuring that every individual, regardless of where they live, have access to a fair trial. It's about building a Guam that is stronger, more just, and more modernized and connected to the rest of America. So I call upon each of one of you to support the incorporation of the Uniform Attendance of Out-of-State Witnesses Act into Guam law. Let's make a stand for justice, let's modernize our processes, and let's make a stand for Guam. Together we can usher in a new era of legal fairness and integrity for our island and for generations to come. I thank my colleagues for the support in this measure. With that, Madam Chair, I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you very much, Senator Parkinson. We have signed up again the Attorney General's office. Ms. Gloria Rudolph, if you could state your position for the record.
Gloria Rudolph, Acting Chief Prosecutor, General Crimes Division, Office of the Attorney General of Guam. I'm here on behalf of the Attorney General Douglas Moylan, who wanted to present his testimony in strong support of Bill number 155-37. Bill number 155-37 is urgently needed to rectify a severe handicap to the people of Guam. Guam's rules of criminal procedure presently only allow parties to criminal actions to subpoena witnesses on the island. The arm of justice is blocked from compelling off-island witnesses to testify at criminal proceedings in Guam. This is a severe handicap not just to the people to prosecute and win convictions against criminals at trial. It is also a severe handicap to the rights of criminal defendants who also cannot compel witnesses to testify in Guam who may have information tending to prove their innocence. This handicap puts us out of step with all 50 U.S. states, Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands, which have adopted the Uniform Act to secure the attendance of witnesses from without the state. The Uniform Act provides procedures in which parties to a criminal action in one jurisdiction can obtain the presence of a witness residing in another jurisdiction. The scales of justice can only work if the people and criminal defendants can call witnesses to testify who have information tending to prove their guilt or innocence. Bill number 155-37 will help put more violent criminals away in jail where they belong by allowing the people to serve subpoenas on off-island witnesses and working with the other jurisdictions where they are residing to ensure their appearance for criminal proceedings in Guam. I commend our senators for considering this long overdue legislation and urge swift passage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rudolph, and to the Attorney General. Are there any questions? Sponsor may begin. Senator Blas, no? Senator? All right. Well, I guess that was very clear. I don't have any questions either, and, or I guess, yeah, there's no testimony against it either, so we look forward to expeditious passing of these two bills. The sponsor, if you would like to close?
Just very brief. The public defender may not be here to provide testimony, but this bill was introduced at their request, and I appreciate both the Attorney General and the public defender's support for Bill number 155. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're just trying to modernize our already existing processes. So let's do this housekeeping and get our judicial processes into the 21st century. Thank you to my colleagues.
Thank you. Senator, I'm looking at the fiscal note, and it says, it's unclear whether the judiciary stands to incur the costs associated with the proposed language under the bill. Absent further info, the judiciary is unable to determine or provide an estimated fiscal impact at this time. However, the Bureau, BBMR, is of the opinion that there could be potential impact to the judiciary in terms of resources such as manpower, and possibly GPD, in terms of resources such as manpower, personnel, relative to summoning witnesses, providing travel coordination and costs for witnesses and other associated costs to secure the attendance of witnesses from without a state. Do you have any information on that? Just wondering.
On whether the judiciary or other agencies would bear the burden of it, I would think that this would fall under the budget of the judiciary. So maybe this is something that we could address with excess funds or something that we could circle back to properly during the budget season.
All right. Can I ask the representative from the Attorney General, do you have any information on that, like what is done in other jurisdictions? Who bears that? If you want to bring a witness for the prosecution?
I don't have specific information on who bears the costs, but there are showings that need to be made, how it won't be an undue burden to the subpoenaed party. So there are several steps. You have to request certification, and then you have to show that it's a material witness, and then in doing that, there's also a showing that you have to make that this won't be an undue burden. I'm not sure if cost is factored into that. I guess that's something we'd have to look at a little later, but there are funds for, I guess, off-island victims to return to testify. We do have that. So I don't know if we need an expansion for this, this sort of witness as well.
All right. Great. Thank you very much. All right.
Just a point of information, ma'am. In other states, the party compelling would usually bear the cost of it, whether that be the public defender or the attorney general. So there might need to be budget adjustments for both to account for this.
All right, thank you. There being no further testimony, the committee will consider Bill number 155-37 LS duly heard. Senator Blas, I didn't allow you to close on your bill. All right, thank you very much. And so now we will close on both bills, 153-37 and 155-37. It is now 5:52. Masi, and this hearing is adjourned.